I stood there, coffee cup steaming in one hand, a letter in the other, as I watched a parade of vehicles invade my serene field. SUVs, minivans, and golf carts poured in as if my land was the latest hotspot for a grand opening. My heart sank as I blinked rereading the letter, then glanced up just in time to see a child leap from a shiny Range Rover and relieve himself against my cherished peach tree. Was this a dream? A nightmare? The reality was worse. The HOA had audaciously declared my private sanctuary a public parking lot without so much as a whisper of consultation. The letter penned by none other than Eleanor Grayson, the HOA president and self-proclaimed queen of the neighborhood, was dripping with a smugness that could curdle milk. In the interest of community convenience, it began, "Your adjacent property has been designated as a temporary parking solution for the upcoming HOA annual celebration and related events." No permission, no discussion, just the bold assumption that my land, lovingly tended for years, was theirs to command. A cheerful map marked the spot: event parking, HOA, guests only. Fury fueling my steps, I stormed into the HOA office that very afternoon, letter in hand. I slapped it down on Eleanor's desk with a force that made her barely glance up from her laptop, her smile as condescending as ever. "Oh, hello, Nathan Cole," she chirped with feigned delight. "I figured you'd be thrilled to help the neighborhood." I countered, explaining with rising frustration that my field was not some vacant lot, not abandoned, not public, it was mine. She dismissed my words with a wave of her manicured hand. "Unused land is wasted land. This is for the greater good," she proclaimed, her tone dripping with suburban righteousness. The days that followed were a maddening blur of intrusion. Cars rolled in with the arrogance of entitlement, lawn chairs sprouted like weeds grills, fired up, and children flung frisbees into my peach trees. Two teenagers even dared to string a volleyball net between my fence posts. The invasion was relentless. As I watched the sun dip below a sea of minivans, my fury morphed into a resolute plan. Pacing near the old shed, my foot caught on a rusted hatch. My pulse quickened as I lifted it, revealing a relic from my granddad's time, the irrigation system still breathing life through its valve and pipes snaking across the field. A twist, a hiss of water, and it was alive again. A wild, wicked idea sparked within me, and as a spurt of water soaked a stray chair they'd left on my land, I couldn't help but grin. Oh, they wanted a show. I'd give them one they'd never forget. The calm that settled over me wasn't because the problem had vanished, it was because I had a plan, a big, wet, muddy one. If they wanted games, I'd teach Eleanor and her HOA a lesson in boundaries they wouldn't soon forget. The next morning, before the first light of dawn could kiss the horizon, I grabbed my coffee and headed to the shed, buzzing with excitement as if I had just won the county fair's top prize. This wasn't mere revenge, it was justice. I dug through layers of dust, uncovering Granddad's irrigation schematics hidden behind piles of scrap metal. Unrolling them, I let out a low whistle. Pipes, sprinkler, heads, drainage lines webbed the field, and in bold letters, flood mode. Granddad used to laugh that it could launch a cow clear across the county. Back then it was just a jest. Now it was my ace in the hole. I spent hours crawling the field, brushing away dirt to find sprinklers most intact, a few needing patches. The shed's pump, a relic itself, hummed back to life after I fitted new bolts and connected it to the well. By midday, the moment of truth arrived. A twist of the valve and streams arced across the field's edge. It worked. Oh, how meticulously I adjusted those connections with a flourish. I marked the weak spots with vibrant flags, setting the stage for a deluge that would engulf golf carts in a muddy embrace. That evening, I roamed through the neighborhood, where Eleanor's team was buzzing with excitement, orchestrating what they believed would be the gala of the century. Banners danced in the breeze, vendors were arranging their wares, and flyers were being distributed with a fervor that suggested community spirit at its finest. Parking courtesy of your neighbor, my neighbor, I thought, crumpling a flyer in my hand. I plotted the perfect timing. Too soon and they'd simply move, too late and they'd depart unscathed. The chaos had to erupt when the field was at its most crowded, a sea of cars, tents, and grills. The next day I sauntered into their preparation meeting armed with homemade oatmeal cookies, real from scratch delights, not Eleanor's store-bought fare. They devoured them, both the cookies and my seemingly earnest participation. I nodded along to their endless discussions about logistics, even volunteering to mark so-called safe zones directly above the most potent sprinklers. I suggested clustering the food trucks and stage right in the center prime territory for a spectacular splash. Eleanor, blissfully unaware, clapped her hands in delight. "I knew you'd come around," she exclaimed, thinking I had finally yielded to her charm. Inside I grinned, envisioning the mud that would soon cling to her heels. Nights were spent refining the system, greasing valves, setting them to unleash a maximum flood. Days I would wave at them, setting up barely containing my laughter as Eleanor boasted about my newfound team spirit. The night before the gala, under the soft glow of the moon, I triple-checked every connection my battlefield primed. Pride swelled within me, not just for the land, but for the spectacle I was about to orchestrate. Sleep was scarce, my heart pounding with the thrill of anticipation. Let them park, grill, and sip their lemonade. I would be ready. The day of the gala dawned bright and clear. From my window, I watched as vehicles snaked into the field, guided by enthusiastic, vest-wearing teens. Eleanor, clipboard in hand, stood at the entrance, her face a mask of smug satisfaction. By noon, my field had transformed into a carnival of tents, food trucks, tables, and blaring speakers. Children darted with balloons in tow, adults lounged over barbecues, and a band was tuning up on a stage, unwittingly positioned above the largest sprinklers. The stage was set. Amidst the vibrant chaos of the gala, Eleanor, adorned in a floral dress, fluttered like a butterfly, basking in the glow of my supposed generosity. The air was thick with the scent of barbecue as I waved to our grateful neighbors, counting down the moments until the post-lunch peak. The band, in a valiant attempt to entertain, massacred a tune, while children, oblivious to the impending mayhem, bounced joyously in their house of fun. The field, packed to the brim, left no blade of grass untouched as I mingled among the guests, hiding my smirks behind compliments of their excellent spots. As the sun began to dip, I made my way to the shed, my hand poised over the valve. A moment of hesitation gripped me. Was this too extreme? But then the memory of the kid climbing my tree, Eleanor's mocking laughter, surged through me. No, this was just right. With a decisive twist, the valve groaned to life. Returning to the field, I sipped my lemonade, watching Eleanor deliver her self-congratulatory speech. Then, with the suddenness of a thunderclap, the first sprinkler burst forth under the VIP tent, a 20-foot geyser drenching everything in sight, including Eleanor herself. The silence that followed was palpable, then erupted into chaos. Sprinklers, like falling dominoes, unleashed their watery wrath. Guests, in a frenzied dance, scrambled for cover chairs, toppled, food flew, and the bounce house met its soggy demise. The band's equipment fizzled out, the singer's voice drowned by the deluge, while cars attempting escape sank into the rapidly forming mud pits. Eleanor, now a sodden, shrieking figure, tried to issue orders, lost in the cacophony. People slipped, vendors fled, but the children, they laughed, turning the disaster into their own water park. I sipped my drink unmoved, letting the scene unfold. I could have intervened sooner, but every trespasser deserved to feel the consequence. When I finally turned off the valve, the field had transformed into a swamp, tents, sagging cars mired in mud, the gala in ruins. Eleanor, mascara streaking her face, stormed over, demanding to know what I had done. "Old irrigation systems have their kick," I replied nonchalantly, watching her flail in frustration. The panic, the spectacle, it was worth every moment. The next morning from my porch, the scene was a masterpiece of destruction. Chairs buried tire scars, deep tents like wilted flowers. Eleanor and the board stood in stunned silence, her mud-caked dress a testament to her defeat. Tow trucks struggled, vendors salvaged scraps, and the band cursed her out. No one dared to question my actions. On that fateful day, the meek board member Tim knocked on my door, stammering about miscommunication and pleading for help with the cleanup. I leaned in, eager to assist, but only after the HOA confessed in writing to their trespass. He scurried off, overwhelmed, and gossip soon spread like wildfire through the neighborhood. Some were indignant, others gleeful. The old-timers tipped their hats in respect, and one even left a pie with a wink. Eleanor, in her usual tyranny, called for an emergency meeting, plotting her next move. But I had an ace up my sleeve, Granddad's clause in the deed, which clearly stated no public use without a signed lease. And guess what? No such document existed. At the meeting, they offered a feeble apology, suggesting I chip in for the cleanup. With a sly smile, I slid the deed across the table. The room fell silent. No lease, no claim, I declared. You pay. Tim, flustered, admitted, we didn't sign anything. Leaning back, I confirmed, I didn't think so. Eleanor stormed out, her face flushed with anger and defeat. Within a week, the HOA paid for the full cleanup. Neighbors began digging into past overreaches, petitions circulated, and Eleanor resigned. No one dared step up to fill her shoes, and the HOA dwindled to mere potlucks, no more grand galas or parking disputes. I planted flowers along the field, hung a sign, private property, trespassers will be irrigated. Neighbors chuckled, some even praising my blooms. The field was mine again, quiet, respected. Glancing at the valve, I smiled, prepared for any future encounters. Thank you for joining me on this journey. Your support means the world to us. Please comment below with your thoughts like this video, share it with friends, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more stories that stir the soul and inspire change. Together, let's keep the spirit of community alive and thriving.